Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone, wherever you are joining us from. I'm super excited to this evening to have all of you here once again on our final episode of the March Purpose Alignment series. It has been incredible taking this journey with you, and I'm excited to have you all again with us this evening. I am Dr. Ben Sajman Prempe, your most affable host of the Holistic Medic series, which is an initiative of the Holistic Medic Network. And we are just about seeking to empower health professionals to live an empowered life in all aspects of their lives. That is our mandate, that we are here to make sure that every single health professional, be it and even students in the health space, are empowered to live a life of impact. This is why we started the Holistic Medic series in October 2024 with a mission of putting together events, topics, and discussions that are geared towards helping us be able to live to this purpose and to be able to live to this mandate. And by the grace of God and with a solid team, we've been able to scale through up to this very point. And we dedicated the whole month of March to purpose alignment, to discover, to find, and also to live out purpose. We started by finding out what purpose is, how we can practically find our purpose. And 2 weeks, we had like 2 weeks ago, sorry, we had an event where we talked about the process of becoming what we need to be able to become purpose or what God would have us be. And today we are crowning it off with another beautiful episode. And our topic for today is from purpose to impact, living, leading, and leaving a legacy. Why are we going by this route today? We believe that in as much as it's essential that we find our purpose and that we commit ourselves to daily putting out actions towards its fulfillment, we need to think beyond ourselves. That is why we are having this discussion today, to make sure that we know exactly how to live a life of impact and how to make sure that whatever purpose that we have is transcending ourselves. If you can hear me whether via LinkedIn or via YouTube, I want you to drop in the chat section or in the comment section. Let me know if you can hear us clearly before we bring up our speakers. We are not going to waste any more time. Today we have a very serious and power-packed set of speakers, and we would want them to come up as soon as possible so that we can start our conversation. If you can hear me, kindly drop it in the chat. I know often if you're hearing me from LinkedIn, you realize that if you do not turn off the captions, you would be seeing the captions of all that I'm saying on your screen, and that is going to block your screen, right? So you just see the CC at the top right, the second option at the top right. You just tap it and you turn off the captions, right? So if you turn off the captions, then you wouldn't be seeing the words displayed on the screen so that it doesn't cloud what you are seeing. So you can do that. Mostly we get the feedback that some of you, when you're watching the episodes after, you are seeing the captions all over. You just have to turn it off. It's just a setting you just turn off and you'll be good to go, especially for those joining from LinkedIn. Okay, Dr. Maka is here. Thank you. I see Metal Hymns official. That's definitely Thomas saying that you are loud and clear. Dr. Benis, thank you. Beatrice says it's good to be here. You're looking good. Oh my God. Oh my God. Thank you for that. Okay, beautiful. Okay, Vicentia, I see the fire. I see the fire already. Okay, beautiful. Okay, now it's time. It's time, as you can see on your screen, it's time to share this to the world. If I say the world, I mean the world. Repost the event link on LinkedIn. Tell a friend that you are joining. Copy the link and put it on your WhatsApp status as well. Let them know that we are live on LinkedIn and we are also live on YouTube. So please share it with a friend. Don't be selfish, right? Leave them to sell their fish. Make sure that you share it everywhere. We can't miss any part of this evening's meeting. So please share it with a friend, share it with a loved one so that we can start our meeting for today. Beautiful. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to, as you join in as well, make sure you just drop something about yourself, what you do in the chat section. I say this over and over again. You may never know who comes back to view the event. If you check our YouTube views, sometimes post the events, we have like 150 people who are viewing or just watching the event, even after it has actually been held. So you may never know who's going to come across the comment section. So just drop what you do, what you're about, and I'm sure that definitely the right person is going to see it and is going to reach out to you for what you do exactly. So today we have three amazing speakers. And today I was just looking at the list. I was like, all these are people I got to meet on LinkedIn. Like I had never known them in real life prior to being on LinkedIn. And I got to know all of them on LinkedIn. And I'm excited to have them here. We have our first speaker, Dr. Amaka Ifeduba. I hope I'm doing justice to the names, And we have our second speaker, Mr. Francis Valnebo. If you have been on this episode and you're a part of this family and you don't know Mr. Francis, I think I need to sell you off to another sector of people because this is his third time joining us, and we are always excited to have him here with us. I think I'll give you a gist about him when I'm introducing him. And we have our very first speaker who I've been chasing for since last year. And finally today I get to have him here. So without wasting much time, I'm going to introduce our speakers and bring them up. I'm sure you are itching to see their beautiful and handsome faces. Okay, so our first speaker is Dr. Amaka Ifeduba, and she earned her PhD in horticultural sciences from Texas A&M University, USA. Beyond her research work, Dr. Ifeduba is passionate about human capital development and empowering career professionals. As a certified life coach and founder of the Scholar Up Mentoring Academy, she helps professionals build their personal brands on LinkedIn to boost productivity and also visibility, positioning them for global opportunities. Additionally, she mentors current and aspiring US graduate students. Through her programs, she has trained over, guess what, not 100, not 200, not 300, but 500 professionals and 400 plus aspiring or current graduate students from more than 15 countries globally. If this is not the perfect person to talk about how to position ourselves for living a life of purpose, global impact, and legacy, then I don't know who else you want me to bring up. So, giving honor to whom honor is due, I would like to bring up to the stage Dr. Amaka Ifeduba. You're welcome, Doc.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bernice. You do such justice to introducing me, and I'm just blushing. I'm like, okay, is she talking
Oh,
about me?
thank
Thank you so
you.
much for the invitation to come here. It's really very exciting for me to be here to share your stage, to just contribute to your conversation. I'm truly honored to be here, and I'm really happy. So let's take it away.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I love the sound as well. You know it. Thank you so much for coming. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our second speaker. Wow, I love the comments I'm seeing already. Okay, Essential sending all the love. Thomas said Mr. Francis is really resource. More that he knows more, and I have always loved to have him on Homeless, certainly. Okay, Dobson says, wow, Daniela sending the fire. Chinon some, God help me. Please forgive me for that. I'm very good with Nigerian names. One of my best friends is Nigerian. I don't know today. I'm just failing the test. Desmond says, hi, everyone. That's my amazing coach, Dr. Amaka. Okay, sending all the love to Dr. Amaka over there, Desmond. Okay, Daniela sends all the fire. Vicentia says, Dr. Amaka with the fire, fire. Yes, this woman is going to blow your minds this evening. And if you don't know her, I want you to just search her name up on LinkedIn right now and follow her. She has set some amazing goals for this year, and I see her crushing them on LinkedIn. And I was like, oh my God, it's so bold and so beautiful to see what she's doing. And she has this amazing academy. I think another cohort is coming up soon. Yes, they had the graduation last week, so make sure you contact her and be a part of that. Okay, Fineha says amazing speakers tonight, I tell you. Beatrice says Mama Resilient Amaka. Okay, that's beautiful. Okay, so now introducing our second speaker. So let me give a personal gist about him. So I got to know him on one event he had with my mother on LinkedIn. So I have a mother and a father on LinkedIn, and my mother is, if you don't know her, Dr. Vicky. She was here with us last 2 weeks. Dr. Vicky Octarunyina. So she had an event, and I joined in, and I heard this man speak, and that was just the start of a beautiful relationship. And I knew that I had to know him. Once I told him I want to be your friend, he has never replied that message. So I'm waiting for a reply, Mr. Francis. So Mr. Francis is a national speaker, an author, and a CEO of a digital ad agency known as the Growth Journey Labs, GJL for short. And he helps consultants, agency owners, and subject matter experts become more valuable, visible, and irresistibly positioned in their respective industries. He has consulted for over 34 brands in different verticals over the past 7 years, including small and medium agencies as well as international organizations like GIZ. Currently, he serves clients in Asia, Africa, and the United States. Specifically, he takes them from making 5 figures a month to making 6 and 7 plus figures without inflating their ad budgets. I'm sure you should connect with him ASAP. His ideal clients are typically established service-based companies generating between $300,000 to $1 million in annual revenue with teams of 30 and 100 people. Mr. Francis went from making $12 a month to closing his first six-figure deal, 9 figures in his home currency, of course, within 4 short years, all while he was still in his 20s. He achieved this feat by mastering the art of value elevation. Today, he finds tremendous fulfillment in sharing with other people and other entrepreneurs the lesson he has learned by working religiously on himself. He's extremely excited when he sees his clients and students experience mind blowing transformation as a result of working with him. So, giving all the honor to whom honor is due, and with all the shout and the excitement, I want to bring up to the stage Mr. Francis Valnebo. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Venice. I had no idea this. I feel very welcome. I feel like I'm at home. And that's
You
in
are
part
at
thanks
home.
to the phenomenal job that Dr. Venice does, making her host, her guest, feel very comfortable. So it's a pleasure to be back, I would say. And I will challenge your earlier claim. I did reply. I think I replied at least. If I
Then I
haven't
have to check
replied,
that. You
if I
haven't.
haven't replied, if I haven't replied in words, I'm sure I've replied in actions. So that should
Oh,
be enough. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be
absolutely.
here. I look forward to the conversation that we're going to have today.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming. I'm getting many more comments. Okay, Thomas says for Dr. Mark, everyone knows her potential. She will deliver definitely. Okay, beautiful. Nicola says it's good to be here. Finihas with all the fire emojis. I see you, patience. Essential says Mr. Francis Fire. I'm here to learn how my purpose can earn me 6 figures. Okay, let's see how that goes. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our third speaker for the day so that we can start our conversation. And as I said earlier, I have been chasing this man since last year, and he has always been beautifully declining, coming because of, and I always love how he beautifully tells me he can't make it because of other very important engagements. Like, I would love to be here, and you are doing an amazing work. Then he asks that, okay, you can't come. So finally, when I got to have him here today, I was super excited about it. So Mr. Damilare is an investment professional with over a decade of experience in financial services industry. At Alpha African Advisory, he plays a key role in the execution of financial advisory and policy advisory mandates. Prior to joining Alpha African Advisory, he was a founding member of a private equity fund with commitments with British International Investments BII, the International Finance Corporation, and the Dutch Entrepreneurial Development Bank. In this role, he focused on the end-to-end investment process and value addition. I'm seeing a lot of value in the portfolio of our speakers. Okay, he has led various equity investment and market entry mandates across healthcare, wellness, manufacturing, and agriculture in Nigeria and Ghana. He has also been involved in greenfield development for agribusiness investment. He holds a BSc in economics from Obafemi Owolawo, God help me, this evening, University,
Awolowo.
Nigeria. Awolowo, glory to God. I just realized, okay, I'm going to say that later. University, Nigeria, and it's a CFA level 3 candidate. And this one is doing amazing work. He shared something last time on a WhatsApp page I was a part of, and I just had to share with my connections because it was super amazing. I know today we are going to get more from that. So, given all the honor and all the joy, we would like to bring up to the stage Mr. Damilare Olutola. I think I'm doing better at this point.
Thank you, Dr. Venice, for having me. Good evening, everyone. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you for bringing me.
You're welcome, and we are glad to have you. Okay, so we are ready to go. Okay, we are ready to go. Beautiful. Okay, Maxwell says that my first time, but love the intro already, huh? You have no idea what's coming. I see you, health plugs. Conversations, definitely. That's Dr. Vanessa. Okay, beautiful. So, as and when you put in our comments, we're going to share it with the world and we are going to get right into it. Okay, beautiful. So, as I said earlier, today we're talking about from purpose to impact, how we can live, lead, and leave a legacy for ourselves and those coming after us. And this is under the broad theme of purpose. I think if there's anything that our generation needs to pay critical attention to is the subject of purpose. It's often discussed, but the understanding and discovery of it is one that is still lagging behind. And I really believe that this conversation this evening is going to be a great pace setter for as many as are joining and are yet to join, and even those who are yet to listen in years to come. So before we delve deeper into the concept of living, leading, and leaving a legacy, we want to yet again, as always, address the foundational topic, which is purpose. So we'd like to call upon our very first speaker for today, Dr. Maka, to explain to all of us to get that basic understanding exactly what purpose is about and how her journey from her start to purpose discovery was and what we can glean from such. Over to you, Dr. Maka.
Dr. Venice, thank you so much for the beautiful introduction again. Mr. Damilare and Francis, it's such an honor to share the stage with you. I feel intimidated. So I really hope I can deliver on the topic. I'm really honored to be here. It's a pleasure to be here. I know I was supposed to be in one of your events and then it didn't happen. Oh, yeah, but it's good that I'm here today. So purpose, yeah, purpose, as Ghanaians will call it. Maybe in Nigeria we say purpose. I really think that that's a very important term. For me, I would say purpose is the reason why you do the things you do, the deeper reason behind your actions. Beyond the things we do, why are you doing them? I feel like purpose is like that intersection where your passion, your impact, where the meet, and you're doing things for reasons that are greater than yourself. You begin to, when you're living a life of purpose, it goes beyond just me, myself, and I. It's like you're trying to live beyond yourself for a greater good, reaching a point in your life where you begin to ask, why am I here? For me, that's personally, that's the question I tend to ask myself every day. Why was I put in this earth for such a time as this? Why was I born in this generation for this time? Why am I still alive? Despite I've been through so much, right? It's a miracle that I'm alive. So most of the time, it's the reason why I always ask that question, like, why am I still here? It has to go beyond the money I make for myself, the business I do for myself, or the work that I do. Just me, myself, and I. It just has to go beyond it. There has to be the whole idea of leaving your footprints in the sands of time, being very intentional about the life that you're living and knowing the influence your life has on other people, whether positively or negatively. My own life journey has showed me that people can change you. People can have a big impact to who you become, whether for good or for bad. So coming from that experience, I'm very intentional about, for me, I would usually say purpose is not discovered. I say purpose is developed. That's what I think. I think there's a slight distinction there, at least the way I look at it. I feel like sometimes when we say discover, it gives the illusion that it is something missing that you have to suddenly stumble into. It's like a eureka moment. I just wake up and I discovered my purpose. I don't quite think that's how it happens. I really think that purpose is something that you develop with action, with doing, with taking the first step without seeing the 10th step. But you just see the first step and you take the first step and then you move ahead, and gradually you get, the vision becomes brighter, it becomes clearer, and you just keep going. That's like a big distinction there for me. And then talking about my own life and my own purpose, I'm just going to give you a quick story on how I arrived to be doing what I'm doing now, right? I'm in the agricultural space in terms of career discipline, doctor of plant sciences, right? But then a lot about what I do is with people. So I find a way to tell myself that I'm bridging the gap between agricultural innovation and people development. I find a way to find that intersection, to do the thing I enjoy doing, which is people building, and then back to the career, the discipline, all the education I've had. Now I've had 3 degrees in this, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a PhD. So I'm quite the expert in my field, so to say. But then beyond that expertise, beyond that education, how do I now translate that education to doing the things that make me feel alive, which is connecting it to building people, connecting it to helping people see their life beyond just the now and things like that. So for me, the journey began right from the university of my own life changing. It's just like from my own life changing, meeting a mentor who met a young girl that had been rejected several times before getting into the university with a very low self-esteem. So as of the time I connected with my mentor, who is now my mentor of 14 years, I look at the girl he met to the woman I've become today, and I realize it's 2 different people. Like, it's totally 2 different people, 2 different mindsets, different things altogether. And just someone standing in saying, I see the potential you carry, even though I did not see it myself. I did not think I carried anything. Because you've been rejected so much, you reach a point you begin to feel like you're not good enough. You begin to tell that to yourself. You even believe it. You feel like, I'm really not good enough. Why is all of these things happening to me? And then somebody steps into your life to say, you are enough, you can do this, you can do this. And they begin to draw out a vision for you that even though you don't believe the vision, because they are so passionate, because they are able to convey it with such passion and such conviction, you buy into their own vision for your life. For me, that is the beginning of it. It was not like, this is my vision, oh, I see it clearly, this is what I want for myself. No, this is what my mentor wants for me. And because he's in there in my life, he's been there, he's supporting, oh, I don't want to disappoint this person. So you realize that at that starting stage of transition, it wasn't necessarily that myself was very clear on what I wanted. It's just because God put that person in my life who helped me see the things I was not able to see for myself. And then I started that journey from being the very average student who was struggling to get into the university, literally struggling for 5 years to get into the university, to going through the university in 4 years and graduating as overall best out of over 20,000. I will tell you that was not my vision, right? So I see it clearly. And the reason I'm able to take you through this journey is because I do realize that as human beings, just as the Bible says we are like gods. We do have a lot of power. And when we begin to realize the kind of power we carry, then you realize that our greatest strength, as they say, it should not be that we are inadequate. It's the fact that we are powerful beyond measure. That should just be the thing that really scares us, that we have a lot of power. And when if you realize the power that you carry as a person, then you begin to live your life more intentionally. You begin to wake up every day and then you're trying to figure out, I'm here at this time. What will God have me do? What is it? What am I supposed to contribute? How do I live my life and leave a legacy? And I don't just pass through, right? I don't just pass through. I don't just go through life with an idea in my head that I never find the courage or the confidence to bring it to life. So tying it back to your question without going through so much, I guess something I should have asked you is, how long do I have to talk? I can go on and on. So I always like to ask so that I don't just keep going, right? Yeah, so but just tying it back, just so I can also hear from the other speakers, I would say for me, purpose is just the why behind the things you do that goes beyond yourself and your own personal interest, that brings about a greater good for other people in the world, for the people in your circle. So that's how I see purpose. Thank you for the opportunity.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And we could listen to you on and on and on and on. I tell you, that was so beautiful. And I often say that we find the best things sometimes we find the best things in unexpected places and in very unexpected ways, because your journey is one that is not so typical, it's literally like, I didn't know what I was doing. You told me I should do it, and it happened to be what I should do. Right. And I always appreciate people who come from that place, who appreciate the journey of mentorship. And I always say this about Mr. York. I think most people who know me on LinkedIn know how much I talk about him, and I would always do it unapologetically, because most of the things I'm doing here, I remember at first I was like, people need to hear your voice. You are writing. Yes, it's good. but they need to start hearing your voice. They need to start hearing you beyond just the words. And that is what gradually led to this vision that we have here today. So I really appreciate your journey. And what you said is so amazing, that purpose is the deeper reason behind our actions, the real meaning that goes beyond just the things that we do. So if you are here and you're wondering why you do what you do, if you're able to discover your purpose and your why, it would influence your actions. So if you do not know your purpose and you are already doing certain things, I'm sure that what you are doing should give you an indication of what you believe your purpose is at this point. Thank you so much for that beautiful delivery, Dr. Amaka. Okay, so we'll go to our second speaker, and we just want to find out from our speakers, their personal journeys before we delve deeper into our conversation. So, Mr. Francis, as well, we want to find out how you also would define purpose, and for someone struggling to discover purpose, I think that is one thing that a lot of people have issues with. Because if it's just a definition, they can use ChatGPT, they can use Google, they can use, now we have billion and trillions of AI tools. But for someone struggling to find what their purpose is, what would be your recommendation or your prescription for them? Over to you, sir.
Amazing. Thank you for the opportunity once again. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, essentially because I remember struggling as a 19-year-old. Was I 19? 19 stroke 20-year-old. I had just finished college and I was clueless. I had graduated top of my class, but all of a sudden I discovered that in the real world, nobody's asking you, did you get an A or a B or a C? None of that. Like, it doesn't really matter. I felt, okay, I was going to do business because I was always entrepreneurial from a ripe young age. At the age of 9, I was thinking about businesses. I started my first business at the age of 9. And so by the time I was 20, I was very clear. I wanted to do entrepreneurship. I had my mindset on that. And that really launched me into what I call my season of frustration. Because I didn't understand how somebody who clearly has been marked intelligent by society, someone who has the academic qualifications to back it up, could feel so helpless, so powerless, and so confused. I'm not sure how many people here can relate, but that was me many years ago. And so I tried a lot of business ideas, which I thought were supposed to work, and each one just kept failing back to back to back. And it was at that point where I said, you know what, maybe I don't know what I'm doing actually. And it was at that point, I remember I broke down. I cried actually when I discovered that I had no idea what I was doing. And that was the moment when God just orchestrated events. Through my cousin, he led me to my spiritual father. And all of a sudden, my life started coming together piece by piece. And so that was the starting point. That was my moment of uncertainty. But then eventually, the more I got closer to God, the more I discovered that He's really the one I should be asking what I should be doing. And so through my journey, I got to learn that purpose, and you might want to write this down. I discovered that purpose is the functional intent of creation that the creator has in mind. So there's a creator, there's his creation, and there's the reason why he created his creation. The reason why he created that creation is what is called purpose. This is what I have found. And that definition saved my life. I kid you not, it saved my life. And it revealed to me why a lot of people struggle with finding their purpose, honestly. So the question you asked was, how do you define purpose? I've just defined it. There was no problem with the question, so I answered it directly. The second part of the question, however, is where I feel a lot of people get tripped up. The second part of the question said, what advice do you have for those struggling to find their purpose? And I think those last two words are what make it very tricky. When we believe that purpose is ours to find, we get lost. I much agree with what Dr. Amaka pointed out. but I'll phrase it the way I have written here. I've discovered that purpose is not found. That's the first thing. Purpose is not found. Purpose is not discovered. Purpose is revealed. Purpose is received. That's a very clear distinction that I want to make. And so it's think of I don't want to start making it look like we're inanimate objects, but imagine an air condition unit, an AC unit, imagining what it was created for. The best person to ask is the manufacturer, right? Or imagine that you and a bunch of your friends got a phone call from another one of your friends. It says, come over to my house. I have some gifts for all of you. And you've never been to this friend's house before. Maybe it's a new house. They launched a new house. They invited you over. They said, come, I have some gifts for you. All your friends go. And when all of you get to the house, maybe it's a housewarming party, all your friends just all of a sudden start moving strange. And before you know it, all of them come back to the living room with their gifts. And you're standing there feeling lost. You're wondering, okay, chairman, where's my own? Right? And he tells you, okay, find your gift. I have a gift for you. Find it. You will be so lost because number one, the house is new. You've not been there before. You know your friend has something for you. You know he's not lying, but you've not been in that house before. So if you were tasked with finding the thing that he says he has for you, chances are you will not find it. You're better off asking him, okay, you have a gift for me. Where do I go? Where do I look? How should I look for it? When I get to this particular room, okay, do I need to do this, and then this? So that's what I've discovered. It's important that you always revert to the creator when you are considering what your purpose is. The way I discovered my purpose was a bit dramatic. In the process of an encounter, I was told, this is what I want you to do. Okay. And as a matter of fact, around that period, I was fasting, praying, and there's good news and bad news. The good news is I received divine instructions very clearly. This is your purpose. This is what I want you to do. And then I made a very huge mistake. Prior to making that mistake, I had a dream. Okay. And in that dream, I saw myself going to our church, my church back then, our family church back then. I saw myself going back to the church, entering our pastor's office, and my pastor was giving me different currencies, pounds, euros, dollars. That was what I saw in the dream. And so I believed, okay, maybe God is telling me that there are some foreign currency deals coming that I should accept, right? That's what I thought. But as fate will have it, that dream was a warning actually to avoid a transaction that was going to be, pushed my way. Long story short, I fell into the hand of some people who wanted to blackmail me, and I actually lost millions of naira in the process, right? This was back then during the Bitcoin boom. And so I felt, okay, I know what God wants me to do. He has even confirmed it with a dream. So this is a great opportunity. Let me dive in. And in hindsight, I believe God allowed it to happen for a reason, but I also believe it could have been avoided. I could have learned that lesson some other way without losing millions of naira. And there's a saying that people who are 1,000 years are 1,000 years because they've lost hundreds. People who are millionaires are millionaires because they've lost hundreds of thousands. People who are billionaires because they've lost millions. I've lost millions. I'm waiting for the billionaire part to come. But that's on a lighter note. The lesson here is when you meet the creator and you ask him to reveal his purpose for you to you, chances are excellent that he will reveal it to you. It might be direct, as it was in my case. It might be through bringing people your way, as it was in the case of Dr. Amaka. It could be while you're reading a book, watching a video, watching a movie. It can come in a manner of ways, in a variety of ways, but it will be revealed to you. That is the first thing. However, when it is revealed to you, you must make sure that you do not launch into execution right away. When we're dealing with the subject of purpose, what is important, what you should do is important, but it's also important to understand how. It's important to understand when. So the mistake I made was receiving my purpose, my God-given purpose, but launching into execution without staying for God to give me the blueprint, without staying for God to order my steps. That was the mistake that I made. It's a mistake I would want everyone here to avoid making. So if you're struggling with your purpose, remember, number one, purpose is not found, it is not discovered, it is revealed, it is received. And when you have received it, it is your duty to ensure that you stay to receive the blueprints for your purpose so that you do not make costly mistakes. That has been my answer, my attempt at the answer, at least, anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that was a great attempt, since we are using the word attempt at that. Thank you for that addition there, Mr. Francis. And I really agree with what she said, especially at the latter part of your delivery about staying with God for the blueprint. I wonder why humans, okay, let me use humans because we are humans, right? Why we want to always take steps without finding out from the one who gave us the purpose as to its execution. Because when Jesus himself walked on the earth, he said, I do nothing by myself, but I do whatever I see I see my father doing. So I can do nothing of myself, but whatever I see my father doing, that is what I do. So I always say that anytime God gives you an instruction, it's like telling you that, my dear, go and prepare your love. But that's just the first step. If you have never prepared your love before, you have to ask him, oh, how am I going to prepare this your love? Am I going to use yam? Am I going to use plantain? Am I going to use rice to prepare the jollof, right? So if God gives us a purpose, a task, a mandate, if he reveals to us what we are supposed to do, what projects we are supposed to launch, what book we are supposed to write, we should not just jump at it. Let's find out what exactly in that he would want us to do so that we save ourselves of all the frustrations that will come. Because even when you discover what you're supposed to do, the frustrations will come. But knowing that you are following exactly what God will have you do would ease you off the pressure when sometimes things become difficult. So thank you so much for that. So on to you, Mr. Damilare. We also want to find out from you what your journey has been into discovering your purpose and what you do on a daily to be able to ensure that you are actively pursuing your purpose. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I think I've taken a few things down from Dr. Amaka's response and the last response. So I think for me, purpose is having a hand in mind and living daily to achieving that. And the reality is the end gets clearer over time. And so that's one truth I've had to tell myself. And I think that part of the reason why the end gets clearer over time is because some of us have environment around us that can be a constraint. Just before where we started the class this evening, so my wife was watching a short clip and a woman was asking a few children, what do you want to be in the future? And some of them would say they wanted to be firefighter. One of them actually said he wanted to be an hunter. Now, the reality is that child spoke based on the environment that has constrained them. And so there have been times in our lives, before we go even into the spiritual, where we think that we are trying to get to a place based on what we see around us. But the reality, I think the goodness of God or the mercy of God then comes that in chasing those things, it then reveals a greater purpose to us. I would say with all of my heart that I don't think that Mr. Dangote planned to build a refinery when he started. But when he started with sugar, cement became attainable. When he started with cement, then at some point, the refinery became attainable. And so that's why I said that purpose is having a hand in mind and working daily to get into that place. Now, the challenge is sometimes when we have certain things in mind, we want to get everything so perfect that we refuse to take actions and move. And I think that's where many of us get, or sometimes we see all we want to do, and the fear of achieving that kind of overwhelms us, and we do not take any action at all. And so I think that there is a force from the outside that then comes to give us a nudge. And how you would know that you are in the right space is that you would have a certain level of peace. You may not yet see the full result, of what you think your purpose should be, but there's a piece that will accompany, excuse me, as we go across the different steps of accomplishing that thing. So let me give you in a minute. So my plan really has always to be an entrepreneur. My parents had 2 failing businesses, and it was very hard growing up as kids living in that house. But I knew that they were passionate. And so my premier assignment was that let me go and find out how to make successful business grow. And there was no, at the time, I didn't know any particular course I could study in university to help me achieving that. And so it was the reason why I studied economics, thinking that economics and money and business somewhat relate. And in the process, I entered an investment banking firm. In the process, I entered private equity, and I started investing in SMEs to grow them. Now, what I'm saying is that there was an end in mind, and each day I tried to work towards it. And as I work towards it each day, then things become clearer. And I think my advice to every one of us is we only have a picture in mind, but the path to getting there may not be clear. So what we need to do, like Mr. Francis said, each day, let's ask God, what is the quota of that purpose that I can fulfill today? And if we get each day right, I think we will ultimately arrive at that destiny or that purpose, as we say. So I think that's my a little addition to what all of that means said.
Thank you so much for that. I don't know if you were the one who said this, but there was this event that I joined with Dr. Vivian Magnus at the Phoenix Gate Group, and one of the speakers said something that success is not a combination of what we do or of a day's action. So success is not attained by a day's action, but by our daily actions, like what we do on a daily, not just a day. Like you get up one day and you do something amazing and you go to sleep, but it's what you do every single day that matters, right? And it's that daily pursuit, that thing that we do regularly, the things that we commit ourselves to doing, even in the area of our purpose, that helps us to be able to get to the finish line. And there's something you said that I think Dr. Finney has also definitely highlighted on the comments, that the end gets clearer over time. And I couldn't agree anymore. Definitely, clarity comes in the process, right? If you start one thing, you realize that you know the next thing. If you're going to wait for all the steps to be revealed to you, you might as well never start, because it will never come. So as you get obedient, as you fulfill what you are doing, you are given more. I've never seen anybody go to school from the nursery and they are promoted to GHS, right? Except Dr. Amaka and the others. For them, they are sharp brains, so like they can be promoted and skip classes. But for the good population of us, you go through one exam, you pass, then you are taken to the next. That's how it is. If God gives you a task, after you fulfill it, then you are given the next, then the next, then the next. So don't expect to start solving algebra when you can't solve 1 + 1. Do what God has given to you, then you can move to the next thing. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Damilare. Okay, so now that we have actually set the foundation about what purpose is about and how even individually we go about pursuing our purpose, we would want to know that what are some of the practical steps that we can take to be able to move us from just discovering our purpose or walking into our purpose to actually making real-time impact, real-world impact. What are some of the practical ways from self-discovery to action? Because it's one thing to finally know what God will have you do, and it's another thing for that particular purpose to bear fruits to benefit others. So what are some of the practical steps we can take to transition from that purpose of discovery onto the point where we are making impact? And I would like to come Dr. Maka to elaborate on that for us.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Bernice. And you said it, I did skip some classes in primary school for whatever reason. It wasn't because I was smart. It was not because of that. For whatever reason, I skipped classes, but I ended up paying for it because I ended up spending additional 5 years before getting into the university. So I didn't know how you knew that. It just made me laugh when you said it. But the funny thing is that I skipped classes, but it wasn't because I was smart, because I was really not smart at that stage in my life. Okay, back to your question. I just wanted to throw that in there. It's really important to go beyond theory to practice, right? Because we can sit down and theorize forever. We can sit down and get definitions to everything. You know, in Nigeria, we have this thing that they say show workings. So I think maybe Damilare and Francis, they know, it's like, you need to show your workings at some point, right? It has to go beyond what you can. It's not about church. It cannot just be about talking. You need to begin to translate what you are saying to things that are tangible, things that people can see, things that can make a difference, right? And I think a lot has been said about that. And if I'm just going to pick up and piggyback from where Damilare was speaking from, that's like the willingness to start, even though the vision is not very clear. You have to have that willingness to get going. Because if you want to sit down and see the big picture, you want to see the entire picture, then you really never start. So he has really done a lot of justice on that. I don't want to just kind of keep reinventing that wheel, but that's the most important thing when it comes to working in purpose. You need to just be sure that just the much that you know, keep working on it, right? As much as you know at a given time, work on it every day. Be very intentional about giving your best every single day. And as you do that, you realize that things become clearer down the line. But an important thing that also helps is for you to be able to set goals that are tangible. Set goals, like goals that we've talked about the SMART framework forever, right? But at this point, everybody talks about the SMART framework. So it's very important that you are setting your goals that are time bound. I think that's like a very important aspect of that framework. Beyond all the specific and all of those things, you need to kind of be clear in your journey. From this time to this time, this is what I'm trying to achieve. From this point to this point, this is what, clearly, it has to be clear to you that this is what you are doing, that even though I don't have the full picture, and I'm going to use myself as an example, right? I need to give like a practical example right now. I've been on LinkedIn now. I'll soon be celebrating 1 year of being on LinkedIn. By the end of March, like April 1st last year, was the day I made the decision that, okay, now I want to be on LinkedIn. So it's going to be like 1 year very soon of showing up every day, trying to be intentional, giving the value, doing what I wanted to do. At the time I showed up on LinkedIn, to be very honest with you, at that point, I was a final year PhD student. It was April of last year, so I graduated in December. In my head, I already had the projection that I wanted to graduate in December. So at that stage in my life, I was thinking that, okay, maybe this is a good time. I didn't know much about LinkedIn anyway. I didn't know much about any social media. I've never really been like a social media person, like a social media posting and all of those things. But in my head at that point, I'm like, okay, now I'll soon graduate. This is a good time to start networking. This is a good time to start positioning myself for a job. That was as much clarity as I had at that point when I showed up. So I just showed up like, okay, I'm just going to share my journey. I'm going to encourage other people. It was just, LinkedIn was almost like a journal for me kind of thing. If you go back, my kind of post was always from personal experiences. I didn't really struggle to write my post because I just wrote about the lessons and the lived experiences that I was having. If I went to the greenhouse and something happened, I could make a story from it and I can tell you what the lesson is. If I made a mistake, I will tell you. If I had a challenge, I'll tell you, oh, I had this challenge. This is the lesson I learned. That was all I was doing. And in the process of doing that, I realized that so many people started asking me a question about graduate school. Mostly people from Nigeria, Ghana, mostly all the people from our African descent. They will reach out to me in the DM and they will ask the question, oh, want to come to the US, the whole thing with graduate school. And that was how my mentoring academy was born, because I was just willing to step out and be there. And then I started seeing the problem. Now, going back, that was not the reason I showed up, right? But in just being there, in just being present, I was able to see that, oh, okay, this is something I can do. Oh, yeah, I've been through this process myself. I've gone through the whole struggle of transitioning from Nigeria to the US. I know this thing like the back of my hand. I understand it. And the more people reached out to me in my DM to ask questions, all the time I was typing, I was responding. And then in my mind, I was like, this is not practical. This is not sustainable. I cannot spend my whole life responding to DMs. And then the vision started coming together little by little. Like, okay, I could bring all these people together. Instead of talking to one person differently on the DM, I can host events like this. I can have Zoom sessions where you are talking to 100 people at the same time. It serves the same purpose instead of you trying to talk to them one after the other. So Scholar Up Mentoring Academy was born mainly because of graduate mentoring. That was, at that point, that was the clear goal. I felt like I was receiving that assignment because something I think is it Damilare that said it is that you kind of realize that once you start stepping into purpose, there's peace. There's just this peace that comes with it. Because picture that I'm in agriculture. So most of what I'm doing now is not related to educational training. It's not like maybe as Damilare said, he went to study economics and thinking that he has something to do. No, for me, it's really separate. It's really like parallel lines. There's no connection with some of the things I'm doing now with all of the education I had received. But then I realized that, okay, it's not so tough. I can really do this. And then when I started that academy, in the process of getting it going, then I realized another problem. I see another problem. Like, okay, all of these people I'm mentoring and trying to get to grad school, most of them were intellectually very smart. Most of the time, when you see people who want to go to grad school, already go and check, most of them have first class already. So they already had the stellar performance. But I could easily see that something was missing. For most of them, the confidence was missing. They were not able, when they send me their documents to review, I look at their statement of purpose, I look at their resume, and I'm wondering, is this the best light you can present yourself? Like, is this the best thing you can write about yourself? And then I realized that was the gap, and that's an African problem. I could recognize that because it took a while for me to go from that person who was always very shy and withdrawn, like, oh, I don't want to talk about my achievement because people will say you are proud. It's an African thing, right? That you kind of grow up to the point where it's like, you need to tone it down. Tone it down. Don't say you are all that. Don't make people feel like you're proud. Don't show off. It's something, there's that thin line. Of course, there's a thin line between self-confidence and pride. It takes a lot of wisdom and experience and even grace from God for you to begin to be a self-assured person who is not proud. It's a thin line that we, all of us, I would say everybody who is moving forward in their career, you kind of have to navigate that journey gradually every day. It's like a prayer point. You literally have to like, search me, Lord, you know my way, that kind of thing, where you are making that distinction clearly. But that idea of putting yourself down, it becomes a disservice for most people because you cannot speak up. You cannot talk about yourself because you are so concerned about what someone is going to say. And that was where the whole Elevate Your Professional Presence program was born. Because now I wanted to train these people to be confident. It was not just about getting them to grad school. I wanted them to be self-assured. I wanted them to see the value of personal branding. I wanted them to reach a point where they could really step out in faith and say, this is who I am. I can build my network. So you see how it all comes together. That when you are living a life of purpose, it's about probably catching a piece of the vision. And when you run with that piece of the vision, eventually things start lining up. And as long as you're always willing to respond, like here I am. Something that is also very important that I need to point out is the intentionality to build the skills and the expertise that you need. There's something I always tell my mentees. I say that every given time in your life, you need to do a gaps analysis. You need to ask yourself, okay, this is the next step. This is where I need to get to. What are some of those skills? What are some of those experiences? Because it doesn't just happen. That's the thing. The most times you realize that people are more willing to invest the time to build technical skills. For example, somebody like you probably went to school for 6 years to be a medical doctor or something like that, because I know in Nigeria, 6 to 7, sometimes 8, if the strike decides to catch up with you, right? People are willing to do that. People will spend 5, 6 years to become an engineer. They will spend all of that time to gain technical skills. But when it comes to personal development, they think it should just happen. They think that you should just be an amazing speaker. You should just wake up from sleep and suddenly you know how to speak without kind of stuttering or kind of going off and saying what you don't want to say. People think that that confidence is not learned. People think that communication, all of these soft skills that tie together your purpose, that makes it easier for you to move forward in your life. People don't tend to carry it as much they don't place as much importance in it as much as they place on those technical skills. Yes, the technical skills are important. The skills you carry, the skills, the problems you are able to solve. Because at the end of the day, you living in your purpose is about solving problems, really. If we narrow it down, it's about doing something. It's about when you're living a life of purpose, it means that you are part of the solution instead of being part of the problem. So you need to kind of, at every given time, ask yourself, do I need to take a refresher course on this? Do I need to do this? What do I need to do to fill up the gaps in my life? It's not going to just happen. It's very important. And personal development is a personal problem. It's your business. It's your personal business. It's you. You need to kind of have that self-audit from time to time. And the final point I'm going to make, so I can hand it off to the other speakers, is that if you really want to live in your purpose, you really want to bring it to birth, you need to understand the power of collaboration. You need to understand the power of networking right. Most of the time, we typically have this feeling of, I did it all alone. I did it all by myself. It was just me. Oh, it's just me. I did it and I succeeded and nobody helped me. Everybody wants to have that kind of story. But it's probably going to take you much longer to achieve something on your own as compared to trying to figure out the people who have done it and learning a thing or two from them. Success hardly happens, good success, it hardly happens in isolation, right? So you need to reach a point in your life that you begin to find out who are the people who are the people doing the things I want to do? What are some of the things I can learn from them to make my own journey easy so that I'm not just doing it all by myself from off the bat? For me, for example, when Scholar Up Academy was born, the first thing I recognized was that if I'm going to scale this academy, if I'm going to really do this and do it for the long term and not abandon it, as a PhD student that was in her final year doing research, writing dissertation, I knew I needed to find the right partners, the right collaborators very fast. And from that time, I was able to find my dear Dr. Augusta, I'm sure you know Augusta, and a couple of other people that we've been working together up till now. So recognizing that your purpose is tied to so many other people, there is not, I don't think there's any dream or vision that is given to just you. It just has to be you without kind of touching other people's life. So I feel like these are some of the practical steps, at least in my own journey, that made it possible for me to just move from one step to the other. So just recapping what I said in 3 bullet points, the first one is start even when the vision has not become so clear. Just be willing to take the next step and then come back for instructions. And then just to put something in, failure is part of the journey. If you fail, that's fine. If you fail, you learn from it. You learn one way that did not work. You keep going. The next thing is always take the time to do those gaps analysis and figure out the areas of your life that you need to build the skills and the competencies that will give you the confidence you need to deliver on that purpose. And the last thing is master how to network and collaborate right. You should not start building your network when you need it. It shouldn't be that I'm looking for a job next week, then suddenly it's now that I want to start thinking about everybody I can call, or I need to scale a business, and because I want to do it tomorrow, I need to now start now to begin to figure out all the people I can collaborate with. Be very intentional in aligning your purpose to other people's purpose, because we are all in a whole, right? Nobody is really born and then they are in isolation. So I really think these are some of the points I want to share on this. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. I think I just had to listen and stop writing at a point. It was like you were just talking to me. Thank you so much for that. Truly, I'm not saying this as just a flattery, but thank you, especially about the power of collaboration. Thank you. And I hope we are listening, like listening deep. I just don't want to add to it all that she has said. If you didn't get it, if you are watching on YouTube, you can just go back some few 5 minutes back and listen and come forward again so that you get what we are saying. Right? I always say that I just don't want us to come here for 2 hours and it's like, okay, we just came, we listened, and that is no. At the end of the meeting, you should ask yourself, what one thing are you taking home? What one thing are you doing better because of this meeting? Else you could have used the 2 hours to prepare Mala or something. I don't know if you can prepare Mala in 2 hours, but I don't know. Well, you could have used it for something else, watch a movie. But if you are here, just be intentional about what you are doing. It's not just to show up and know that, oh, Dr. Venice, I came, oh, that's fine. But I just want you to know that you are living here with something very important, because these people here, they've gone through life and life has gone through them. So whatever they are sharing, it's both from knowledge and from experience. So I want us to really pay attention to all the things they are saying. That was so beautiful, Dr. Maka. God bless you. Like you and your generation. God bless all of you so much for that. Okay, so Dr. Maka kept talking about this journey, about the things we need to put together. It's like when you're preparing your stew, all the things you have to put together to be able to actually get to the point where your purpose is translating into impact. But I would want us to now delve on the subject of impact a bit more and find out exactly, there's this conflict that sometimes you have when you start to do something that matters beyond yourself, that how good am I doing this thing? How can I be sure that this thing I call impact is actually real impact and not just something I'm living in my head? So I'd like to find out from Mr. Francis that in pursuing impact, in living a life of impact, can we measure impact? Can we come to a point where it's like I've reached 90% of impact or 100% of impact? Can impact be measured? And if it can, how? How can we measure it? And if not, how should we go about knowing that indeed we are pursuing purpose into impact? Over to you, sir.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Dr. Maka. Like Dr. Bennett said, she was, how did they say, speaking to both the congregation and the choir. So definitely a lot to glean from her wisdom, and I'm blown away. So thank you. The question here is about measuring impact. I'll explain why it seems contradictory. I come from the world of startups and the world of venture capital. I'm sure Damilare can relate. There are certain areas of investment called impact investing. And you'd be tempted to believe that the reason the investor is investing in that venture is because they don't really care so much about making a profit. They just want to make impact. So when you hear impact investing, you're tempted to believe that you're liberated from the need to drive real business results, things like revenue. But at the end of the day, whether your impact is quantitative or qualitative, it has to be measured. Whether your impact is something that you can point at in your bank account and say, okay, this is the impact of this effort, or if it's something that you just can see in the life of someone, you should be able to know, okay, this is impact. If I'm going to borrow from Dr. Maka's story, you can imagine her mentor thinking about whether or not he has made an impact in her life, right? All he has to do to answer that question is ask himself, where was she before? Where is she right now? And the difference there, that delta, is what we call his impact in her life. And so if we want to also approach it from a biblical perspective, the question about whether impact is measurable or not, I'll ask the question, did Jesus measure impact? And the answer is yes, he did. On multiple occasions. There's the quantitative measurements that Jesus did, and there's the qualitative measurements that Jesus did. I'll explain. If you recall, in the Gospels, there's a progression of events. John the Baptist baptizes Jesus. Jesus becomes the superstar in the whole of the kingdom of Israel at the time. John eventually keeps on preaching. Eventually, he offends Herod and he gets put in prison. I hope we're all tracking. I hope you're following. John gets put in prison. All of a sudden, he's sending people to go ask Jesus, are you the Messiah? Or should we expect someone else? That was a poke into his impact. How are you asking Jesus if he's the Messiah? Is something wrong with you? And Jesus' response showed that he cared about measuring impact. He said, go and tell John what you have seen, that the blind see, the lame walk, the deaf hear, people who are dead are coming back to life. And it says, tell John, blessed is he who is not offended because of me. If Jesus didn't care, he wouldn't have told John, this is what I've been up to. If you read the Gospel of Mark, chapter 6 as well, the story about feeding the 5,000, I don't think enough is said about the level of intention that God has about stock taking. This is my first point, if anyone is wondering. The importance of stock taking, the importance of recording both quantitative and qualitative progress. The miracle of feeding the 5,000 didn't just happen because, okay, Jesus said, let the bread multiply. There was a protocol that followed, that had to be followed. If you read Mark 6, you see that God intentionally asked the children of Israel to sit in groups of 50. So that immediately tells you that God is not disorganized. And at the end of that whole spectacle, that whole miracle, Scripture tells us that there were 12 baskets left over. The question is, how did they know that there were 12 baskets left over? Because they counted. If you did not count, there's no way you know the impact that you had. The way that they knew that there were 5,000 people who were fed in the first place is because they counted, they took stock, There's an entire book in scripture called the book of Numbers. That is how serious God is about stock taking. But oftentimes we find in this generation, especially, there's such a fast-paced approach to life. Rarely do people sit and take stock. They reserve it for the first of the year, the 1st of January. Okay, I'm making a New Year's resolution. That's not stock taking. Some people go as far as doing the measurement every quarter, which is better than doing it just once a year. But it has to go beyond something that you're doing just because it's cool or because you see people posting about it. Stock taking has to become a habit. It has to become part of you. And it is so serious that what we call Judgment Day is really an impact assessment day. You see. And so it's important to have that mentality of stock taking. I have a framework that I use to audit my progress across 7 different aspects of my life. I audit my spiritual progress, my career development, my mental development, my relationships. There's 7 of them. I actually built a tracker. At the end of the year, I keyed my numbers and I can see exactly how I am performing. I give myself a CGPA. I'm able to tell whether or not I'm making progress. And here's the thing. The way I check progress not by an arbitrary static number. I check progress relative to where I was before. I tell people, if you use my framework to measure your progress and you score this year 5 out of 6, for instance, or 5 out of 7. And for instance, your financial performance for that year was maybe 100,000 CDs or $100,000. And you got 5 out of 7. The framework is designed such that if you make 100,000, the next year, your score will drop to around 2 out of 7. And so the measurement of impact, when we're now dealing about the how, is partly something that you approach bearing in mind that your competition is not the next person. It's not Dr. Ben is doing LinkedIn and growing a LinkedIn account, so you want to grow a LinkedIn account and become like Dr. Ben is. No. You measure progress against your assignment, against your purpose, compared to what God asked you to do. How much have you actually done? And are you making progress? Are you improving? You have to be intentional about these things because truth is, what you can't measure, you can't improve. You can't. This whole thing about stock taking, and as a subset under stock taking, I'll talk about impact assessments, monitoring and evaluation, what's called M&E in the business world. It's so serious. I actually have a tech startup that is built around this whole concept of gathering feedback, right? Stock taking / gathering feedback is that crucial. I believe that you can't be a serious leader in life, either of people, of systems, organizations, or of yourself, and afford to treat feedback as an afterthought. You can't. You can't be running a program and then only after you finish do you think that, oh, I have to figure out how did the program go? Did we do well or not? You have to plan to gather feedback. You have to plan to take stock right from the inception of whatever it is that you're doing. I'll touch a bit on goal setting here, because someone asked me, this actually happened. Someone came to me and said, okay, I want to know how I'm performing, financially, right? And I asked them, okay, what are you measuring against? Do you have goals? And he said, no. I'm like, so how do you want me to help you, right? You measure progress against goals that you have set. There was an episode where I spoke at length on what a goal actually is. Oftentimes, I see that what trips a lot of people up is their notion of what a goal is. They think a goal is a dream. A goal is not a dream. A goal is not a dream. A goal, by my definition, is a specific target on a timeline with an achievement guarantee. That is what a goal is. And so when you set a goal, it makes it very easy for you to know whether or not you're hitting that goal. The SMART framework, which I don't use but has been popularly preached, is a starting point. It tells you that whatever you're doing, it has to be measurable. So by definition, a goal has to be something that you can measure, right? So put yourself in that state of mind where you know that you have to measure everything that matters. I believe maybe at the end of this event, Dr. Bennett will demonstrate a powerful new way of collecting feedback that I shared with her. It's that serious. I looked at that question and I said, no, the best way to demonstrate this is to demonstrate it using something that I have actually built. Okay. So I'm sure she'll roll that out at the end of the session, but major takeaways here. Make it a habit to monitor and evaluate your progress against the goals that you have set, which, by the way, should be in alignment with your purpose. You shouldn't set goals arbitrarily. You shouldn't be aiming to go to the US just because Dr. Maka is in the US. It doesn't work that way. If your destiny and your purpose have not called for that, you chasing that is you chasing foxes, you're chasing rabbits, multiple of them. You won't catch any of them. So being very clear about your targets is the second point that I made. So stock taking, make it a habit. Being very clear with your goals is another point that I made. Conduct regular impact assessment. There's something I always say, and I'll use this to end. It's that the speed with which you succeed is hinged heavily on the speed at which you fail and learn from failure. If you breeze through life with trial and error, which by the way is not a bad thing, but without learning from the errors, that's just a life projected to go downhill in perpetuity. The speed at which you succeed is hinged on the speed at which you fail and learn from failing. And you can't do that if you do not understand and practice stock taking, goal setting the right way, performance reviews the right way across all aspects of your life. This is my submission. Impact is measurable, and I've just shared about 3 ways that you can measure the impacts that you're making. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And indeed, when he said he doesn't use the SMART framework, I'm sure some of you are wondering which one he uses. If you don't know, check our meeting in January. You get to know what he was talking about. But there's something that he said that after writing it down, I just had to put exclamation marks by the side of that note that we must measure our progress based on our assignment. Because I think oftentimes we'll get to the concept of dealing with comparison and all that, but we often measure our progress based on the progress of others. And that is what is causing headache for a lot of people. Like a lot of the hypertensions we are seeing and all those heart conditions in the hospital, all those panic attacks, some of them are coming from this. That we are measuring our progress based on the progress of others. So you check, okay, I did this and I got this result. Oh, so and so this did the similar thing and got that result. And because yours is not up to the same standard as the other, you feel that you are failing. But you need to measure your progress based on your assignment and where you are coming from. You started from 0. Now you are, let's say, at 2. You are getting to 5. So you are making progress. But if you want to compare your 2 to someone's 1,000, then you feel like you are failing. So always have your assignment in mind and measure your progress based on your assignment. That was just so apt. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Francis. If you are still on and you can hear us, keep dropping your comments, keep dropping your contributions in the comment section, and we will keep bringing them up. I think I received a couple of messages that some of you are having some network lag on LinkedIn. I think there's been those issues with live events. So if you're having those issues, you can just use the YouTube access as well, and I'll still see the comments from here. So if you're having issues with the LinkedIn, you can just use the YouTube link as well. Okay, thank you so much for that. Okay, so back to you, Mr. Damilare. I would like to find out from you, for people who are here who are having issues with, yes, we are talking about purpose and all that, and fulfilling purpose and achieving impact and that. But sometimes there is this major conflict or tension that we tend to have between what we want to do and the demands of our purpose. We are saying so many amazing things. We need to do this, do that, start this, start that. But oftentimes, sometimes you just want to sleep. You just want to spend the money, They say you have to pamper yourself. So where do we tend to how? That's the better question. How do we deal with the tension that comes with the sacrifices and the demands of our purpose and actually following self-gratification? Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I think that if I understand the question correctly, it's to say there is this that we want to achieve, but when we look at the journey of what we want to achieve, it can look very unsurmountable, and in itself, it makes you not want to start. Is that the question? Just for clarity.
Okay, so more like there are certain demands of your purpose, certain things you have to start, but you also are having the desire just to be by yourself, not to start that. So where you have to learn to make the sacrifices to be able to pursue purpose.
All right. Okay. So I think that um, as we grow, and I'm trying to not sound as if I'm attacking in my response. As we grow, we begin to choose what is most important to us, and we need to also begin to accept the result of our responsibilities. And so I think it's very hard to want to have purpose and comfort to a large extent at the same time. And I'm using the word comfort loosely. I think that there is demand to everything that is valuable. And that's the first truth that we need to tell ourselves. And so if part of my purpose requires me becoming like Dr. Amaka to get a PhD, I clearly note that 5 to 6 years of my life, I'll need to give myself every day to studying a particular subject. And the reward is that at some point I'll become a doctor. Now, the reality is, I think that many of us do not fully, properly dimension what it is that we want to achieve. And because if we truly dimension it, we'll know the steps that we need to take to achieving that. Now, to be honest, there are days where you don't feel like it, but the responsibility of purpose will keep us going on. And I'll give you two things. And I'm going to pick a lot of things that from Dr. Amaka's response. I think the first part of really driving any purpose is devotion, and that devotion comes with consistency, and that is showing up every day, even when you don't feel like. These things may sound cliche, but over time, I used to look for people to share deep things with me, for me to achieve what it is I want to achieve. But I realized that achieving purpose is in the very simple things and doing them very consistently. And so, as I speak to you, I have a 6-month self tracker of things that I have to do every single day. And they're very basic things that I have to try to achieve on a daily basis. If I'm being honest, there are certain days I don't feel like standing up from my bed. But because I know that there are repercussions for the decisions I don't make, I have to. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. There are days where I just sluggishly do them, but I try to do them. The second, which I think is very underrated, which Dr. Amaka picked on, is partnership and team. Now, I'm going to use an example. So there was a time when I was struggling a lot to pray as a person. And so what I did was I called 3 of my other friends and my wife, thank God I'm married. And I said between 9 and 10 every day, we have to pray, even if I don't feel like. And there are days when they would call. I'll see the group call coming. I'll be angry at joining the prayer meeting. But I knew that I needed that for that period of my life. At some point it came, I entered my own rhythm, and I didn't need that meeting anymore. And I'm sure that the challenge is, purpose is a very long journey, very, very long journey. And if we do it alone, we will fizzle out. And we need to tell ourselves that truth, because there will be days that you don't feel like, but if you have a group of people that are like-minded, it cannot be, it's almost impossible that all of you will not feel like at the same time. There will always be someone who probably has that energy when all of you are, when the rest are not very, very in the mood. And I think the next part is also quick execution. Now, I noticed personally that if I drag between when I have an idea or an assignment and the time to which I do it, the chances of doing it begins to diminish by the day. And so I think the next part is the ability to execute very quickly. And so that means committing to something. And so sometimes what I do is I call my team, or I call a few people that I need to deliver that thing to, and I say, oh, I'm delivering this thing on this certain date. Now, because there is commitment and I like to be responsible, I have to, because there is a deadline. And so I think that that's another part that can help us move when we don't feel like. Now, the last part that I'm going to touch on is limiting our options. Now, I also think that because some of us are very talented and very smart, we try to do too many things at the same time. And it's not because it's not like we don't have the talent, but the reality is we begin to pull ourselves in too many parts. And so we drive so many things until we get to maybe midway, and then we feel burnt out. I typically would advise that we pick what is most priority, achieve it. And so personally for me, I don't use New Year resolutions. I've tried them, they don't work for me. And I noticed that the pressure of wanting to fulfill the resolution itself is more than what it is that I want to achieve. And so what I do is at the beginning of every year, I pick one thing that by the time the end of the year comes, I must write a report that this I would achieve. And so it means that if I achieve one very important thing every year for the next 10 years, I've done 10 very important things. And so some people are a chef, they are a fashion designer, they're trying to study, that's just doing so many things. And so I think that that in itself brings some mental fatigue or emotional fatigue, and it doesn't help us achieve what is most important to us. And so I think that those are some of the things that I try to do to help me stay on course. And so I think those are the things that are really most important to me, and that's how I drive it. I try to be very practical as well. I don't have 10 frameworks or templates like Francis does. That's excellent. But I've learned that for me, it's just limiting my options and building a team around those things that I really care about. And I notice that that's how I tend to execute really well. So that's it for me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. But before I go on to Dr. Maka, I want to just ask Mr. Damilare one more thing based on your submission about the aspect of quick execution. Because yes, it's a very fundamental and a very important thing. But oftentimes we find people conflicted with when they have to execute a task or an idea or a vision, and it's like the time frame that they have it so that they do not lose that strength or that zeal for that. So that how can we find the balance between quick execution and also making sure that we spend time to thoroughly assess that which we have an idea about before executing it? I don't know if you get my question well.
Yeah, I think I understand you. So
Okay.
so in so let me take a step back and answer this way. So a large part of my life has been in acquiring other people's businesses and trying to help them grow. And so we have an 100-day plan, we have a 6-month plan, we have a grand plan that we want to execute over 5 years. The reality is there is a 30-day answer, there's a 60-day answer, there's a 1-year answer. And I also think that it is also trying to simplify the process. If I want to build a house, maybe the first answer is identifying the location of the house that I want to build. Maybe the 2-month answer is getting all the contractors that I need to mobilize them to site. Maybe the 5-month answer or the 10-month answer is completing the foundation. So I also think that when we want to execute quickly, what is the smallest part of the entire work that I can quickly do to ensure that I will have committed myself to a journey? And so I think that that's another way that I look at it. So so what is the 30-day answer? What is the 60-day answer? What is the 1-year answer? And so I also think that that's the way that I tend to dimension those things. I know that maybe Francis or Dr. Amaka may have more grandiose answer, but that's the way I try to dimension things.
That's as grand as it can get. Thank you so much for that. I hope those listening got to actually understand that, because oftentimes when I get people and sometimes they say that, okay, I had this vision and because I was so enthusiastic about it, I started, and now they get stuck midway because they didn't spend time to actually thoroughly assess or analyze I don't want to use the word, the lifespan of that particular idea and know where to start what. But as you said, it's important that we break it down in bits and know that what fraction of it can we do. Personally, for me, anytime I receive an idea and I don't want to lose out the zeal for it, I always tell my graphic designer, Gideon, just get me a flyer. Just having it sitting in my gallery some way, somehow, just keeps me in the check that, okay, this is something you wanted to do at this point. This is something you can start at this point. Having it there just is like a reminder for me. So in whichever way you can actually apportion what you are thinking about or the idea you have, you can put it into practice as well. Thank you so much. Okay, so back to you, Dr. Maka. Definitely on the same trajectory, we would want to find out from we were talking about some of the mistakes and some of the issues, some of the things we have to look out for in our journey to purpose discovery and to making impact, right? even though we've not fully delved into that, we've already been mentioning some of the things that we should be on the lookout for whilst we are pursuing purpose. But I would want to find out from you, what are some of the common mistakes that you have noted that certain leaders or even people ordinarily do on a daily that affects them in discovering purpose and also in making impact? What are some of the mistakes that leaders make when they are trying to make impact? Everybody wants to be on stage, everybody wants to blow, but what are some of the mistakes we make in trying to blow? Yeah, over to you.
God will help all of us to blow. God will really, really help us to blow. That's the prayer. That's a very Nigerian term. I haven't heard it in a while. Yeah, reminds me so much of home. And I think this is a very important question, right? And it is something that I believe each and every one of us have probably made one or more of these mistakes. And somehow, if you're lucky, I think Francis said something that was very profound, which is your ability to fail very fast and fail forward, pick yourself up and then keep going, because failure is part of the equation. And we should not kind of have that illusion of control that no matter how much we know, you ever reach a point where you would live a life that is linear, that is so devoid of any mistake or mishaps, because I've read so much, I know so much, so I should have everything working for me like that. That's a mistake, right? That's already like a wrong kind of thinking, that you feel like you already know so much. You've studied all the frameworks, you have all the information. So when I start executing, everything should just go without any unexpected changes. So I would say one big mistake that I've seen people have is not having the ability to adapt to changing situations, changing conditions, being able to adapt their ideas very fast, staying stuck. Like, it's a thin line between remaining resilient and remaining consistent and wasting your time. It's just a thin line. So many things in life, right? It's just a thin line between the both of them. Sometimes you don't give up too soon. But sometimes, like when you listen to motivational speaker, I used to listen to some kind of comedy where people would combine. It's like, are we fighting or are we not fighting? Which one should we do? Do you understand? Because at the end of the day, there's really no right or wrong answer. For example, if you have a goal and you have a vision, at what point do you look at it and say, this is not working? I need to pivot. I need to do something else without feeling like you're a failure. I need to change course. Maybe I need to do something else. Maybe this is not for me. At what point should you do that? And then the next thing is, do you then give up too soon because you tried it once and then you think about crazy innovators like Thomas Edison that kept going over 1,000 times, and you wonder what kind of faith did he have? I don't think he was a Christian, but that was big faith right there, right? That you're able to try one thing over 1,000 times and you keep failing until, and then he said, I didn't fail. I just figured out all of these different ways that was not possible to work. In my mind, I was not failing. So navigating this whole purpose journey, it requires grace. And I that's where I go back to where Francis talked about asking the person who gave you the purpose, trying not to depend too much on your own strength, your own knowledge, your own headspace. Because like I said, we can read everything, you can know everything, but at some point you need that guidance. You need a point to kind of stop and take that stock and reflect, like, should I give one more year, or do I need to stop now and do something else? That's one important aspect. And I think something else that is very important is that sometimes, because we have the just do it mentality, which is everybody gives you that advice, you need to start. And then sometimes people start and they have no strategy. They don't even stop to figure out that strategy. They don't stop to say, okay, maybe I need to learn more things. Maybe who do I need to add to this team? How do I fit this puzzle? How do I build this my purpose around so many things so that I can limit the chances of failure? Because believe it or not, no matter how resilient you are as a person, there is how much times you would fail that it becomes discouraging. It's just a given. This is just human nature, right? So you try not to set yourself up for failure, is what I'm saying. As much as possible, when a goal, you're trying to pursue something, do the best you can as a person to not set yourself up for failure from off the bat. You're already setting yourself up for failure. And then when that failure comes, then maybe you are demoralized and you don't feel like going forward. So it's important that as much as you're starting, you don't have the clear picture, but then be intentional about building strategy around what you're doing. Become intentional about trying to keep fitting those puzzles together. Fit it around the people. We've already talked about the importance of collaboration. That idea that some leaders have or some people have that I want to do it alone. Some people have a problem with sharing credit. And I think that's a big issue in leadership, because you just have that mindset that I want to reach a point where I said I did this all by myself, or I went and I did it and it's just me. You want to stand on the stage, you want, like the popular Nigerian song, they say lonely at the top type of syndrome. So if you have that type of lifestyle where you feel like, oh, my idea is so special, people are going to steal it from me. Oh, my idea is so unique, so I need to keep it under lock and key and do everything all by myself. I'm not going to delegate anything. I will not consult anybody. I'm not going to. That is where that burnout, you reach that point of burnout, and you've not taken the time to build the systems that Damilare was talking about, of people who can support you, people who would hold you accountable. We, all of us, no matter who we are, we need people that on the days we wake up and don't feel like it, who will remind us of the greatness we carry. We all need those people in our life that we have positioned, those people who have the courage to remind you, to say, stand up from your slumber. Do you know who you are? We need those people to remind us of who we are. But those relationships, they don't come overnight, right? It's not, a lot of times we think that things are automatic. You need to kind of pour into people. You are the kind of person that pours into other people, that it makes it easier for other people to even want to be there for you and lift you up in those tiring moments. I've had people tell me that, oh, you are so lucky. People always do things for you. Like, you are very lucky. How come it looks as though you're doing everything effortlessly? And I laugh. It's always very funny to me. I'm like, you think so? It's because you don't know what I do for people, right? You don't know that, you don't know the willingness or the sacrifices you have made to be able to reach a point where people will take your call, people will respond to you, people will jump on your cause, people will do your thing. You build all of those relationships. As someone who is trying to build a vision, you need to know that it cannot be done in isolation. I cannot emphasize this enough. The whole point of your vision, the whole point of impact, for me personally, the way I measure my impact is in the lives of other people. It's not just necessarily how much I've made or how much is sitting in my bank account. Money is good though, and I love money. I'm Igbo, so don't think I'm saying this because I don't love money. I do. But at the end of the day, real impact comes from the number of lives that were touched because of you. That someone can look and say, oh, I was going to give up. Then I took your class. Then I listened to you. Then you spoke to me. Then you coached me. And then I didn't give up again. Oh, I didn't know I was ever going to be able to achieve this. Then you showed me, you sat down with me in strategy and you said, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And it changed for me. For me, that is really the sweet spot, right? So the final thing I'm going to say is that we need to have the willingness to always say, yet. I don't know how to do this yet. It's a different mindset from, this is not for me. I cannot do this. It just changes your mindset when you begin to look at things and say, well, maybe this is tough, maybe this is hard. It's just because I've not learned how to do it. And that's my mindset towards life. Whenever I look at things, I will say the distance between me and this person who is excelling in this thing that I feel is a part of my purpose or is something that I want to do. The only difference between us is time. Maybe that is their 10th time. Maybe that is their 1000th time. And I'm just starting my own. So I need to give myself the time and grace to grow. It's very important that we give ourselves grace to realize that it's not magic. It's really, really not magic. The journey of purpose, the journey of making an impact, it is seeds. You just sow gradual seeds of change, gradually. And when they begin to blossom, it makes all the difference. I'm just going to conclude with a story. This year, I had one of my goals set. I said I wanted to make videos this year for whatever reason, right? I said, okay, I feel like, yeah, I need to make more videos this year. I'm going to just make more videos. I've been doing a lot of content writing. Of course, I do a lot of trainings and workshops and online events. But this year, I was like, okay, I'm going to do short form videos to just put key information in 2-3 minutes that people could just listen to and be impacted. Because I know you can see how much, what do they call it? Attention span, right? It's becoming, attention span is being on the decline. That if you really want to catch people young, for me, who is so invested, especially in younger people and trying to get them, I feel like, okay, something I can do is to make short form videos. And that was part of my New Year goals. And I thought I was going to do it. I felt like I had all the discipline. I had all the determination to do it. And then January passed and I was looking at myself like, Dr. Amaka, how many videos have you made? February passed and then I saw that goal. I saw that goal or that vision that I had in my mind already dying in my hands because I had not built the system. I had not put any accountability around it. I had not I was not setting myself up for failure or for success. I was just relying on my own willpower. I think that's a mistake that we make, that you want to rely so much on your willpower. You feel like, now me, do you know who I am? Do you know the things I've achieved? I'm a very disciplined person. So you want to rely everything on your willpower as a person. And that was when I saw that goal and that vision dying in my hands. And one day I took the bold move and then I made one video, maybe you saw it, and I put it on LinkedIn and I said, now I'm doing a 60 days challenge. Every day I'll post a 1-minute video, follow the journey. Do you know, in just doing that now, it looks as though in my head, whether I feel like it or I don't feel like it, now I don't have a choice because you cannot afford to fall your hand. So now you've taken it away from your willpower. You've put it out there to say, I want to do this. So you better figure out how to do it. So accountability is key in whatever we are doing. Don't just rely on yourself and feel like it's just me, myself, and I am going to get it done. And then things keep getting messed up and then you don't tell yourself the truth. So it's important you realize that no matter how driven we are as a person, no matter how driven you are, no matter how disciplined, you still need other people. You need accountability. You need to be very intentional about having those people around your life that would keep you accountable to your vision. On the days you wake up, on the bad days where things are not going well, people will look at you and remind you that, Dr. Bernice, you are great. Do you know the things you've done before? You cannot afford to give up. Those are the things that will just give you the willpower to keep moving forward. So that's really what I think.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Dr. Amaka. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless you. And I think the things you are sharing with us and alongside all our speakers are just very timely piece of information and needed that we have to actually get into us to be able to. Because sometimes I don't know why people think that leaders or people who are in some small limelight, I don't say we are in any limelight, but the small ones, because we are self-motivated. People just expect things to flow naturally with us, Some people go by saying, oh, you do it so effortlessly. And you know what effort? You have no idea the effort it takes. But I'm really getting teary. Like they look at it and they say that, oh, you're doing it so effortlessly. You have no idea. Anyway, but it's so important. This is just all of us listening. If you know someone around you who is doing something, please, we get tired. We also get tired. So just give us those encouraging words. They are very important. Sometimes your word to us is the encouragement we need. Is the accountability that we need. You saying that, oh, this thing you want to do is really amazing. For you wanted to give up on it, but by you saying that, all of a sudden, that's energy. And that drive just comes back in for us to keep on doing it. That was so beautiful. Okay, so I hope if you're a leader, you're an individual listening, you noted down all these mistakes and how you can overcome it. There's something Dr. Amaka said that will lead to our next question about we giving out. We pouring into people around us, and she shared that people look at her and they are wondering how come people are able to give out and invest their time, their resources into her. It's because of what she has poured into them. Right? I always used to think, how come the disciples were so, like, they went all out for Jesus to the point of death? It's because he empowered them. He gave them the most precious gifts that anyone can have. He gave them the power of the Holy Spirit, the passing of the Holy Spirit. So they were able to go all out to the point of death. They didn't mind dying or in whatever form. So I would want to find out from Mr. Francis as well that as leaders, as people of impact, how can we ensure that we are empowering others? And what are some of the practical ways we can pour into people around us instead of just focusing on ourselves and the journey to our success? Over to you, please.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I don't know if Dr. Maka can tell, but I also happen to be Igbo. And there's that tendency. I grew up being labeled as weird because many of my ideals seem to deviate from the cultural norms where I'm from. This notion about, for instance, my people are very commerce driven, very money focused, right? And many of them have this picture of success where they attain success, by simply doing what worked for the other person, not knowing what that person has done to get to the point where that thing can work for them, not knowing the sacrifices that that person has made, not knowing the unique equipping that God has endowed them with that allows them to do the thing that they're trying to do. There's this effect, I think there's the Dunning-Kruger effect. Some American psychologists discovered it, Dunning and Kruger, where people tend to overestimate their own ability. So, for instance, I'll use everyone on this call who are speaking as examples. You may see us speaking, sharing ideas, and you'll be thinking, wow, it's so easy for them, or wow, that's so deep. Or maybe they were born. Nobody's born with these things. We're not born with these things. It takes a lot of work, especially on the aspect of communication. People assume that you're just supposed to communicate eloquently by default. It doesn't happen that way. And I'm going to use that to segue into my answer to this question. About 2 years ago, I landed in Ghana. That was 3 years ago, 2022. I landed in Ghana on a scholarship to study entrepreneurship at the MEST Africa campus. This is a program where they screen 5,000 to 10,000 people across Africa. They end up selecting the top 50. They bring them into Ghana. They teach them, and at the end of the day, they invest in their businesses, right? And this was me coming in from my Nigerian background, where I had never, traveled for entrepreneurship to learn, to see how people do things. In my head, I came with the same goal that anyone would have entered that program with. How do I get the investments that they promised us at the end of the day, right? The last thing you want to tell an Igbo person is, I will invest in your business, and you don't invest in their business. They'll come after you, okay? But then I couldn't help noticing that while I was progressing in the program, I was learning. But I noticed many of my mates, who, by the way, are not lousy by any stretch of the imagination, struggle with articulating themselves. These were some of the best minds in Africa as far as business is concerned. But I would see them talk to me about an idea that they have, sell it to me, and I'm like, okay, I see the potential. We can make it better, make it work. But then when they're pitching that same idea to the investor, they are shaking. They lose all sense of composure. Confidence flies out the window. And I felt very bothered because I could have just gone ahead and maybe aced the program, got my investment, and left. But I was bothered. I saw the people around me who were very good at what they were doing struggle with grasping this opportunity simply because they couldn't understand how to communicate. So I said, you know what, guys, you guys have probably seen that, okay, I seem to understand how to communicate a certain way. Most times when I speak, people say, wow, I want whatever you're selling, just take my money. Investors included. The investors ended up investing in my business anyway as proof of concept. But I told them, okay, I seem to have an ability. I notice you guys are struggling with this ability. If you will show up for free every weekend, I will teach you the things that I have come to learn about communication so that you can increase your odds of communicating your ideas successfully. I just put it on our class group, and I did not know people were going to be interested, but people started saying, please, where are we meeting for the class? They ended up calling it Weekend Comms Class. And I didn't have any lecture notes, but I simply said, let's get started. You pitch this, and as you're pitching, I'll do a live deconstruction of what you're doing. I'll help you break it down, tell you how to improve, and all of that. That continued for a couple of weeks. After that ad hoc communications training program, by the next semester, all the mentors were shocked. They were wondering, how come so many of these people are now communicating much more eloquently, much more beautifully? And this is something that I'm proud of to this day. I can say that I have made an impact in their lives, not just by boosting their confidence, but also because many of them, over 70% of the people who attended that program, eventually got invested in by the investors. So on aggregate, hundreds of thousands of dollars just were invested in people who I had the privilege of teaching and mentoring. And so it's important to the question to think beyond your personal gain when you're leading people. Nobody elected me to do the thing that I did. I could have decided not to. But because I genuinely cared about their futures, I said, I have to do something. That's the mark of leadership, right? Looking out for others, not just for yourself. Usually, when people come to work for me, one of the things that I ask them, very open and honest question, is you're doing this because you want to make money and you want to take care of yourself, but what else are you doing this for? What is that beyond what you wrote in your application? What are you actually here for? And then I make it my personal mission to go out of my way to help them achieve that thing that they said they have in mind, even if it is outside the scope of what their job description with me is. And so, similar to what Dr. Maka said, you end up having a lot of people who are just loyal to you because you've poured into them, because you cared about them beyond what you can get from them. One of the things that I teach when I teach pitching and communication for business purposes is pitching an idea, pitching a business, or trying to get a customer to give you money. Pitching is not something you do to people. No, you do pitching. Pitching is something you do for people. Okay? So being people focused is the first thing. Think about what the other person wants and how you can help them get there. Another very short story, I was working at a marketing agency. I got promoted like 3 times in that office. And before I left, there was something that the managing director did. I know he could have avoided doing that, but I learned a lot by just what he did. There was something that came up and he had to travel for work. And he said, you know what, Val, you are going to be the deputy managing director while I am away. So he left the office in my care for some period of time. I did not plan for it, but later I got to find out that he was doing that because he knew that if he did not expand the shoes I was walking in, I wasn't going to grow. Like I said, I had already been promoted a number of times. So he could see where my strengths were and he could see where my weaknesses were. And in his wisdom as a leader, he created situations that would force me to work on those weaknesses. He created opportunities for me to walk a day in his shoes, for it, like if you want to put it that way. So that's another thing. Learn to challenge people. If you keep people within their comfort zone, they are not going to grow. Anybody who comes to work for me ends up learning. You have to be better at life in general, not just at your craft. That's something that I'm very intentional about. Okay, so challenge people, be there for them. Also think about the problems that they have that you can help them directly solve. Okay, and then feedback is very important. In terms of knowing that you are empowering people, the last thing you want to do is to guess whether or not you're having an impact. Ask them and be willing to receive brutal feedback. The problem we found is, people in organizational settings or any sort of leader-follower interaction, on the follower side, the people who ask for feedback will usually get shunned if the people giving the feedback believe that you won't do anything with it. Maybe you start the relationship fresh and you ask for feedback and they give you feedback that first time. They are trusting you with that feedback. If you do nothing with it, the next time you ask for feedback, they won't give it to you, at least not so willingly. And it's not going to be as pure either. So you want to make sure that you're asking for and actually implementing something, even if all the ideas are bad. Use it as an opportunity to call everybody together and teach them how to think better. Okay? And then I'll also talk about being solution-oriented. As a leader, it's very disempowering when your people make a mistake and you chew them out because of that. People are human. If the person knew, except in the case of intentional sabotage, I always have this, it's a framework which was handed to me by one of my mentors, which is API. Not the tech API, but API, assume positive intent. So I always assume that, okay, if someone has just made a mistake, if something has gone wrong, the person did not know how to avoid it going wrong. So it's a learning opportunity. It's a teaching opportunity. So identify those gaps, but instead of calling out their inadequacies and making them feel like they are not human, less of themselves, I zoom immediately to the solution. Okay, you did this. What did you learn from it? How can we do it better? Be solution-oriented. I'm saying a lot because I could go on and on, but there's a lot more. And I think there's a way goal setting actually helps you to empower others if you do it right. Because here's the thing, as a leader, you need to learn to lead by example. People follow gladly when they see that you've done the thing that you're trying to, that you know what you're doing, right? At least you have the potential to bring it to fruition if it's not been done before. Okay, so effective goal setting is important. For those who may not have had the opportunity to attend any of the previous classes or lectures or sessions, the framework I teach for goal setting is THORR, THORR. It's an acronym: target, habits, obstacles, resources, and resilience. When you set a goal, if you do not outline and, like Dami said, dimension these things, chances are you're setting yourself up for failure. You need to know exactly what you're aiming for, the target. You need to know the habits that you need to form. You need to preempt the obstacles that you will encounter on your way to achieving that goal. You need to have and be very honest with yourself about the resources that it will take to achieve that goal. And then you have to have a resilience plan. In other words, when something goes wrong, and it will go wrong, what do I do? You're not God. You can't forecast and predict everything that will go wrong, but have contingency plans. When you do that, you will notice that eventually you start hitting your goals with more precision. And as a leader, that has a way of inspiring others. And it makes it easy for you to just hand them the way you did the thing, so that your job as, I believe that your job as a leader, part of your job as a leader is to become the shortcut for other people, right? But you can't do that if you don't set goals properly and if you don't hit your goals with some sort of systematic approach. So I've said a lot. I can boil it down to some bullet points, but these are different ways that leaders should ensure that they conduct themselves so that they are definitely empowering people rather than just focused on building their own success. And I'll say this to wrap up. I've said effective goal setting is very important. I've said think more about people and what you can do for them more than what they can do for you. I've said let them walk a day in greater shoes or bigger shoes, maybe not your own, but challenge the people that follow you. Let them stretch themselves. Ask for feedback. Do something meaningful with the feedback. These are things that are important, right? And be solution oriented in your criticism. So these are just few of the things that I have found make for effective leadership and empowerment.
Amazing, excellent points over there. Thank you so much, Mr. Francis. So beautiful. If you are still here with us, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for staying. I see the comments coming in as well. Amazing speakers. Yes, indeed. So God bless all the amazing speakers today for your time. You have been amazing. You have really impacted us with every single information you shared. Godwin says, wonderful session, and the network will not let it flow. God have mercy on us. It's not easy. I think we have to start inventing our own network. I don't know who starts with that, then we'll follow. I will invest in that. It will give me premium access. Okay, so we're gonna zoom into our last set of questions. This is legacy building, which is the final part of our discussion, and it's very important. But before then, we can definitely never zoom into that without talking about the concept of our mindsets. That is something that we always talk about with every conversation. Mindset. Because at the end of the day, that's a very core of achieving all that you have to achieve, is that renewing of your mind, you getting that resetting of your mind. Because oftentimes a lot of people are stuck at one place, not because they do not have the needed resources, but because they do not have the needed mindset shifts, be able to navigate their way into impact. So I'd like to call upon Mr. Damilare once again to let us know what are the needed mindset shifts that we need to have to be able to transition from purpose into meaningful impact. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I realize that the time is really spent. So I think first is to create an environment around us that looks like the place that we ultimately want to settle in. And that's sometimes requiring trying to get access into that type of environment. All right. And I'll give you one very simple example. The very first time I traveled outside Africa, I traveled for 6 hours. All right. And I did not hear a single car blow a horn. And it was very strange to me. because in Nigeria we greet ourselves with our car on. I can tell you how you feel. Burning on. Pim, 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 how are you? Pim, pim, move off the way. Pim, 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 guy, you're blocking the road. And so I literally could not realize that people can drive for 6 hours and you not hear a single horn blow. Now, my reality was already faulty. And if I wanted to build a worldview around the reality that I had, there was something very wrong. And so what I've learned to do, because I'm watching my time, is to outsource some of the areas where I feel that I need to get into. And so currently I'm targeting a particular revenue for one of the business I'm growing. I've never grown a business to that revenue before. So what we've agreed to do is once a quarter, we'll bring someone from a company that has achieved that revenue and they are senior in that place to share certain things with us. Now, what I've done is I've not been there. The person has been there, but I'm humble to recognize who can do that, who has done it, and that person will come and teach me and my team what they do. And so I think that those are some of the things that we need to do. The second is, because I believe in it, I have a few scriptures that I read to myself every single day to help me shape my mindset concerning things that I want to achieve. And so I think I'll just keep it at that. There's a lot to say on mindset, but I have to respect the time.
Oh, I wish we can just rotate the clock back, Wow. But well, we definitely have to find ways around this. Okay. So we will just zoom into our very final part of our conversation today, which is the legacy building. And I think this is very important. I will just plead with all of us, just give us like 15 to 20 minutes because we have to talk about this. This is very, very important. And it's something that is very essential. I hope our speakers can stay with us for these extra minutes as well. Okay, so Dr. Mark, I would like to come back to you yet again and find out, definitely as we are zooming into legacy building, exactly what is legacy, right? Because some people think legacy is about writing a will, like who is going to take my furniture or whatever. So exactly what is legacy building and how is legacy supposed to be built? Is it something that we should be intentional about or something that naturally evolves as we grow? Over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bernice. And indeed, our time is fast spent, so I try to keep it as succinct as I possibly can. I do think that legacy is something that you need to be intentional about. That's a given, right? Just answering that part of that question. I really do think it's not something you should leave to chance. And if I'm going to piggyback to what Damilare was saying about mindset, I do believe that a lot of the things we do or not do, a lot of the things we achieve or not achieve is really dependent on our mindset. Everything begins and ends in the mind. So things would happen twice, first in your mind and then in reality. So it's the same thing with your legacy. Your legacy is how do you want to be remembered? And it's not until you are dead. I don't think people have to die to have a legacy. You can really be alive and have a legacy. That's what I feel. It's not about a will. It's not about the properties that you leave behind. I really feel that legacy is deeply more about the values, the perception that you've built, the impact that you've made that people remember you for. That when your name is said in spaces, people could tie it down to a specific value, a specific thing that you've done. And that is really something that you need to be very intentional and resilient about building, right? And I'm just going to share this quick story just so it helps me to buttress the point I'm trying to make. Now, for me, after I went through my whole journey with struggling to get into the university, I already shared all of that, spending 5 whole years, getting rejected every year, eventually getting in, and then getting in touch with this mentor that changed my life. Something about me really changed. It wasn't just the academic excellence, which is like the outward thing that you can see, right? That's like you can measure to say, oh, wow, that was a very average student. Now this student has graduated well, they did a master's, they did a PhD. Beautiful, that's all good. But I really think that what's changed about me that is even more impactful is my worldview, the way I view life, the way I begin to look at life, that you cannot hold on to the illusion of control. And you need to genuinely be the person you say you will be, even when the situations don't look like it. What am I trying to get at? I come into the United States just 3+ years ago for my PhD, and the same year I'm diagnosed with cancer. I'm alone in the United States, right? I'm by myself. So now this is everything you've learned is being tested. Are you going to be the person that breaks and folds and give up and throw in the towel? Or are you going to be able to walk your talk? Would you be the person that is able to smile through the pain and keep going and keep trying to get that PhD and keep moving forward? I think that changes everything when we really begin to live our life and really put into practice the things that we so freely say. I think that is how legacy is built. That you begin to align your purpose, align your words with your actions, knowing that life will throw curveballs. Things will go wrong. That's like a given. I think when you reach a point in your life that you realize that some of the pains and the struggle you're going through is not unique to you, really. It's not unique to you as a person. Yeah, you may have your own unique challenges, and when you're going through them, you feel like this is the end of the world. But when you begin to build a mindset, I remember for me, what gave me the grace when I was going through my whole cancer diagnosis and surgeries and treatment, I kept telling myself something. I kept saying, this is a chapter of the story. This is just a chapter of the book. This is not the whole story. This is a chapter. God is taking me on a journey. This will become a story that I'm going to use as a blueprint for someone else who is going through this. There is a reason for this beyond myself. So I'm not going to sit back every day and cry and bemoan and say, why me? My life is so terrible. Oh God, not again. No. I have to start seeing that situation beyond myself. I had to remove myself from it. No, it's not about me. This is happening. It's just going to be a chapter of the story. And having that vision, to tell you the truth, it changed everything for me. Because in that point, as a first-year PhD student that had just come from Nigeria and still figuring my way in the United States, was when I started envisioning myself as the valedictorian. I was just in first year, and I was already telling myself that I will graduate 3 or 4 years down the line, and I will stand on the stage and I will tell people, I will use my story to encourage them to be more resilient. You see how it's a long-term thing. That when you build legacy, it's not for the now, it's not for short term, it's not when the slightest wind blows, as the Bible said, like when there is wind and then your house is taken away. That was not a good foundation to begin with, right? So if the foundation is already faulty, there's not much anybody can do. So in order to build legacy, in order to live that life of purpose, you have to go back to your mindset, knowing that life will not always go your way. There will be times unexpected things will happen, things you did not expect, things you did not contribute to. How do you align in those moments and keep making progress? And once you have overcome those challenges, it gives you more strength to realize that sometimes when something else happens in my life now, like, if you know what I've gone through, if you know what I've lived through, you know that this is not enough to shake me. Do you get? So I can replay back to the person who was rejected 5 years and kept going, went into the university, went through the cancer, still standing, and that gives you the strength to say, well, I'm just going to keep going. All I need to do, I tell people in life, all you have to do in life is your best. You don't need to do more than your best. If you can genuinely do your best, believe you me, your best is good enough. It has to be good enough for anybody. That's really all you can give. So it's just about having that mindset that I'm just going to try my best to live an excellent life to the best of my God's given ability. Am I going to fail while doing it? Yeah, sure. Would I make mistake? Yes. Are there going to be pain and bitterness along the journey? There will be. But because I know that it's not about me, at the end of the day, just take yourself out of it to say, it's not really about me. It's about what I leave behind. It's about the impact I'm making. It's about the people whose lives are transformed because of me. I can go on and on, but I'm just going to land it there to say that legacy is really about the impact that you leave behind. Just living your life without you being the center of the story, without you just being the only actor in your story. Be the actor, yes, but give room for other people too to be players in your journey. Thank you very much, Dr. Benis. I hope I was able to keep that
so much.
3 minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. You speak with so much grace that we could listen to you all day. Seriously. Thank you indeed. Legacy is what we leave behind, and it's not built just after we have passed. We have to be intentional about building legacy right from now. It's beautiful. Okay, so Mr. Francis, I'd like to find out from you as well. In our journey to building impact, there's something that is very important that every single person faces, right? This is something that It's a disease that definitely at one point of your life you're going to catch it like a cold, you know. So it's about the sickness of comparison, right? We've all, okay, let me not generalize. I have suffered it before, everyone, and we still do at one point in our lives or the other. So I would like to find out, how can we differentiate between healthy inspiration and unhealthy comparison, and how can we silence the voice of comparison and stay focused to our journey when we are looking at the success others are attaining and it seems like whatever we want to do is just stuck in the mud and we are not moving forward. Over to you, please.
Fantastic. I want to say God bless the two doctors we have here. Both of you have inspired me to decide I'm going to get my own. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I am going to. Dr. Maka, God bless you. Phenomenal story. That's you. There's nothing that anyone can do to take that resilience away from you, and you are alive. You're not dead somewhere, but I can very safely say you've left legacy already. That is your legacy. Your resilience is your legacy. Okay. So I just wanted to say that hats off to you and for Dr. Bernice as well. Everything you're doing with HomeNet, phenomenal. But in the interest of time, I'll just get into the solution. As far as this whole comparison thing is, it's a mindset shift, and I'll be as brief as possible with it. You see, many, I believe most people will look at other people succeed and immediately they see jealousy, they see comparison, self-doubt, inferiority complex, etc. But by and large, people see others succeed and they see comparison. I look at other people succeeding and all I see are shortcuts. All I see is opportunities for collaboration. What I mean is the fact that someone is doing something well is not, I can decide to compare and start beating myself down, or I can see it as an opportunity, as a gift that life is giving me to show me that that thing I'm trying to achieve is actually possible and that it's been done. So the person that I'm trying to compare myself to should actually be my shortcut to achieving the thing. It's not in my interest to try to, and again, you can't have this mindset if you're not rooted, you're not grounded in your own identity and in your own purpose. You can't. You don't, if you do, if you are that grounded and rooted, you will discover that you do not have competition. Everyone around you all of a sudden becomes someone that you can collaborate with. In the early days, when I would make posts on LinkedIn and maybe nobody would care, I felt prey to this syndrome. I'm sure we've all been there. You post, you see someone else post, and in your mind, you know that your post is deeper than that person's post, but they get a lot more likes than you do. You're like, my own post is deep. Why is nobody liking? And then you start comparing yourself. Okay, that person. And the worst thing you can do is attribute someone else's success to luck. That's one of the worst things that you can do for yourself. It robs you of the opportunity to actually respect what that person has done. It robs you of that opportunity to see the opportunities that their progress opens up for you. Because now, all of a sudden, what that means in the context of LinkedIn is that I can actually DM that person and ask, how did you do the thing? That person becomes a shortcut that makes my life easier versus sitting in my corner and trying to scheme and plot how to outperform the other person's content. It's not, that's not how it works. For me, that's not how it works. And so for me, the key here is that willingness to treat life as a sequence of learning opportunities and the willingness to see everyone who is ahead of you doing amazing things as an opportunity for collaboration, as a shortcut that makes your life easier. But if you're stuck with your pride, safe journey. Whenever you figure out how to do the thing, well, you probably be gray haired by then, but I guess by then you'd have gotten what you wanted. So that's how I would answer that question. You notice I didn't start trying to differentiate. I just went straight to how do you fix the problem. So that was my take on it.
Thank you so much for that. And I like what Dr. Finney has said. He said that is really a beautiful mindset for you to see what when you see what others are doing. There's something that I remember the first time I started on LinkedIn, Halma said, you see, that is inspiration or intimidation. You have to choose. And LinkedIn, no matter what, at one point or the other, you get intimidated, but you see it and you get to learn that, okay, I can ask this person how they achieved it. Maybe you may not get there in the same time, but you definitely get to do something better than you were doing earlier. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. So I'd like to take our last question from Mr. Damilare. This has been a beautiful discussion today. I have enjoyed myself. I don't know about our audience. I believe and I know you have really enjoyed yourself as well. Okay, so Mr. Damilare, I'd like to find out from you what are some of the practical steps that we can start taking to building a lasting legacy, right? You are saying that we can start building our legacy from now. So what are some of the, since you are the practical man, and I like all the practical insights you keep sharing this evening. What are some of the practical steps that we can take, to start building our legacy and to ensure that our legacy outlives ourselves? It's over to you.
All right, thank you. First, before I answer that question, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Amaka. Your story on cancer and combining that with your PhD journey is truly inspirational. Francis is a wise man. The way you dimension question, I lose a lot of wisdom. So nice being on the same on the same table with you. I think that the practical step, I'll pick what I think Francis and Dr. Amaka said. The first is we need to take stock. Honestly, in the field where I've grown, every quarter we try to, and I think Francis mentioned that we try to see what it is that we've done versus what we said we are going to do. I honestly think, and I'm going to say that the second time, I honestly think if we have a proper time or meditating on what it is that we're supposed to be doing, and we give ourselves an honest appraisal by ourselves, if we do that consistently over time, we will leave the world with a legacy. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it or color it or tell you that you need 6 steps or 6 ladders. We don't need any of those. If I sit down with myself every single day and tell myself, this is what I should be doing, this is where I am, I honestly, external people will just be a reinforcement. The will I'll generate from within will help me achieve anything. And so it is how many of us have gotten here. But the reality is that we get to where we are, and then we think that the inducement that we need to get to the next place is from an outside force. Outsiders are only meant to be a reinforcement into what we already know within. And so I'm going to close with a scripture. It says, greater is he that is in us than the devil that is in the world. The power we can generate from within, I think that we underestimate it. And I don't know why I'm ending on those notes. But because I see that many times we think that there's something outside that can make us necessarily a better version of ourselves without first realizing that there's a mindset shift. There is something that we need to do from within. So in summary, if we sit down with ourselves on a regular basis and ask myself, what is it that I see in the world that I want to make better? And how do I sincerely, based on where I am, get to that level? We would build a lasting legacy. Now, some of the people that we celebrate a lot, I think it's the same journey. In Nigeria, I respect that they are Adeboye a lot. And when you hear their story, you would see, and I'm sorry, I'm digressing a bit. That Adeboye did not become a pastor till like 40. And today is one of the greatest persons that has ever gone on that journey. All right. Steve Jobs also just said he wanted to build a computer in a notebook and sincerely stayed on that journey. I think that we just need to be honest with ourselves. That's why I said purpose is having a picture in mind, and it gets clearer. And so if I leave this meeting, I would ask myself, what is it that I could have done better, and why didn't I do it? And I try to make that adjustment so that when next I get this opportunity, I'm a much better version of myself than someone who came on this call. And so I think, please, if there's nothing if all my rambling tonight, if you permit me to use that word, I think we need to self-meditate a lot and hold ourselves a bit more accountable, because we are very powerful in ourselves. If we sincerely do that, honestly, we'll build a legacy. Now, let me close with this. I told my wife, and I've said it many times, I know the song that I will play on my funeral day, even though I will not be there, because I clearly know what it is that I want to do, and it is love lifted me. Why? Because there are certain things that I know that if I'm true to myself, there is no way I will not achieve those things that I see that ahead of myself. And so I think that's my perspective to things. I'm sorry that I rambled at the end, but I just wanted to be honest.
No rambling. That was no rambling at all. And okay, this is just by the way, but I really love how you kept saying my wife. Very soon I'll also be saying my husband. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. But thank you so much. And I am sure our audience listening now and those yet to listen, in years to come would hear and they will say, please, you didn't ramble at all. You said great, amazing points. And this goes to all our speakers. I'm truly grateful. I'm like your little sister hiding here, worrying you on this afternoon stroke evening, wherever you may be. And I want to say I'm really grateful on behalf of the entire team. I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Amaka. I know you are super busy. You have a lot on your plate. Someone said we can't complain, we have a lot on our plate because we told the world we want to eat. Right? So I know you have a lot on your plate, but you still made time to come looking beautiful, looking amazing. I was about to say the pink lips, but I never said it. Let's assume I never did. But you look so amazing. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the insights you shared and the amazing work that you are doing in your academy and in your personal life. When you kept saying agriculture, I was like, okay, you are doing plants, but now you're thinking of humans. That's like one health, everything all in one. So God bless you so much. And also to my very own Sir Francis, God bless you. If right now you're checking the comment section, we are going to be dropping an amazing thing that we'll be doing from hence for all our events. We'll be taking live feedbacks. And I know some of you don't like typing. So when we send Google Forms, you don't want to fill. This has options for you to record, right? So you can actually record the feedback you want to give us and it will be transcribed to us. Isn't that amazing? I think I deserve a blank check for that. But don't give me the blank check because this is an amazing initiative by Mr. Francis for us. And I can't thank him. I don't know if there's another word about thank you to give for this amazing thing. So Dr. Phinehas will be dropping it in the comment section and you get to see it. Please tap on it. Just go through the questions. They are very simple. As I said, if you are feeling lazy to type, don't worry. Just record and we'll get the feedback as well. So thank you so much for always being available, for your contribution. Sometimes when you ask me certain questions, I'm like, okay, let me start thinking about this. So thank you so much. And to Mr. Damilare, thank you for coming. Finally, I thought you were hiding your face from me, but I got to see you in my lifetime. And I'm really honored that you could make it today. God bless you. I'm hoping the next time I invite you, block your calendar for me. But God bless all our speakers so much. And this wraps up our Purpose Alignment series for the month of March. Just a few announcements. I'll be out of here. We'll be having our All About Insurance meeting on Tuesday, 1st of April. If you're a Ghanaian, you know that it's a holiday, right? So it's going to be in the evening at 6:30 to 8 p.m. We are going to be talking about insurance products with Mr. Ernest Appel, so be on the lookout for that. In the next quarter, starting in April to June, we'll be talking about AI tools. So for those of you who want to get the right words to tell your girlfriend has been complaining that when you are chatting, you don't say the words, like you don't give her the words she wants to hear. But chat can give you those words that she wants to hear. So we'll be teaching you how to use very important AI tools, artificial intelligence tools that are up and about that can help you in your life, your productivity, your efficiency. So we'll be doing that. So if you have seen our flyers, exploring AI tools with Dr. Finney. So that'll be starting in the month of April to June, every Sunday for 30 minutes. So just every Sunday in the evening for 30 minutes, we'll be having these sessions on YouTube. So be on the lookout for that. We have a WhatsApp page for that, a community page for that. So if you want to be a part of it, you can DM me or you can also DM Dr. Phinehas as well to gain access to that. So that'll be all. Before we sign out, we would like to just take one last word from all our speakers. If you could just say one thing to our Gen Z generation in one sentence, what would you want to tell us? Okay, just spontaneous. Starting with Dr. Amaka.
Maybe I'll just laugh. Okay. There's so much I want to say, but if I'm going to say one sentence, as you said, I would say that happiness is a choice. Consistency is a choice. And we have the power to make that choice. So just go out and just try to make the right choices every day. That's it.
Beautiful.
That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Happiness is a choice, and consistency is certainly a choice that we all don't like to make, but you have to start making it. Okay, Mr. Francis, please, your last words.
Awesome. I'll leave with this quote to the Gen Z generation. You can actually become an immortal, really. The way I picture it, legacy for me is excellence, right? And excellence is immortality. Legacy, therefore, is immortality. So when you make that commitment to live and to lead a life of excellence, undoubtedly you will lead a life of legacy. And when we say you can become an immortal, what we mean is that you really can become a personality that 2,000 years from now, Jesus tarrying, people will still be talking about you, right? So it is a possibility. For me, that's the ultimate goal. So live your life as though you're serious about becoming an immortal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Mr. Damilare, please, your last words.
Um, I'd say live every day with gratitude. Nothing is as bad as you think. There is always a way out. So live every day with gratitude. Nothing is as bad as we think. There is always a way out. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you too. I don't know. Let me try my luck. Please, are you Yoruba? Are you from Yoruba, or I don't know how you put it? Are you from Yoruba, or are you a Yoruba? Which one? Mr.
Are you referring
Damilare,
to me?
yes, please.
Yes, I am.
I got
Proud.
it. So someone taught me that those who have the Oluwa, those ones are the Yorubas, and those with the British-like names are the Igbos. And I think I can see it today. I wanted to try my luck to make sure she didn't scam me. So thank you all so much for this evening. God bless you. I really appreciate you all, and I hope to do this again very soon, hopefully. So thank you for your time. May God bless you, and to our audience, thank you for sticking and staying with us. We are going to meet next 2 weeks, as you know, meet every other week. So we are going to see you in the next 2 weeks. Thank you so much, and have a beautiful evening. Bye bye.